I asked the Most High to give me a word for the people this week. And I opened my Bible this morning and was led to read Isaiah 32. And as I was reading, I noticed how certain parts remind me of present day America. With all that's been going on in the news concerning celebrities, politics, and the hidden things coming to light, also noticing how the perception of America has been shifting. The veil is being pulled back, or better yet, the scales are falling off of the eyes of the blind. The passage even talks about that a little bit. And there was even some humor in it for me, because the part I was reading also mentioned how stammering tongues were now ready to speak plainly. And when I read that, I knew for sure this was the answer to my request. Because I stutter. So I guess God does have a sense of humor, huh? Let's go. Let's get into it, man. Our words for today are liberal, churl, and miser. Now, miser comes off of churl, so it's just a bonus word, but I just felt like it was nice to point that out. You'll see what I mean when I get to it. Let's start with liberal. We started with definition 7. We're going to go 7 through 10. I feel like they're important for our discussion today. Liberal, free from prejudice or bigotry. Tolerant, open-minded or tolerant, especially free of or not bound by traditional or conventional ideas or values. Characterized by generosity and willingness to give in large amounts. Given freely or abundantly, generous. That's liberal. Churl, rude, boorish, or surly person, a peasant, a rustic, a stingy person, a miser, a skinflint. Churl. Now, miser, a person who lives in wretched circumstances in order to save and hoard money. A person who lives in wretched circumstances in order to save and hoard money. Obsolete, a wretched or unhappy person. You see, I had to double down on the number 1 definition of miser, because hoarding money is going to be something that you're going to notice is very important to these people that we're going to be talking about today. Because there's a certain people out there that are getting exposed, shall we say, in today's society. And we're not necessarily going to focus on that, but we're going to talk about why it's happening, because it's coming out of Scripture. So let's get into it. So I read Isaiah 32 and 5, and it reads, "The vile person shall be no more called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. For the vile person will speak villainy, and his heart will work iniquity, to practice hypocrisy, and to utter error against the Lord, to make empty the soul of the hungry, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail." Now, when I started thinking about Isaiah 32 and 5, I noticed how it spoke to me about our current situation in the United States, especially with the behavior of this country's president and not to mention the release and publication of these famous files that are being talked about. I found it very ironic how this verse was worded. The vile person shall be no more called liberal. I'll be honest, I didn't fully understand the word liberal, so I looked it up. And I saw how it meant things like free from prejudice or bigotry, and stuff like open-minded or tolerant or generous and willing to give. And not just willing to give, but willing to give abundantly. So I started thinking about politics, right? And not really to go down the road of politics, but I asked Google, was the United States a liberal country? And it said no, not predominantly. So I said, cool, no problem. But in my mind flashed the Statue of Liberty. So I thought liberty, liberation, but not liberal? So my next question was the U.S. started as a liberal country? And the answer I got was yes. Even though it was still used differently than a modern liberal versus conservative, it still struck me as odd that it could be considered as a liberal country. I mean, considering the foundation, right? The core liberal foundations were to include things like natural rights, the belief that all individuals have inherent rights to life, liberty, and property, or pursuit of happiness. But there were literally millions of lives lost due to the establishing of said country, and these lives were not taken by accident. So I asked Google, what happens to a kingdom established by lies? The answer was, a kingdom established by lies is inherently unstable, often leading to disgrace, dishonor, and inevitable collapse. And that brings us to our current day, where we are witnessing the collapse. Now, my prayer for those that are praying for God to make America great again is that you open your heart to knowledge and understanding. Now, the next part in Isaiah 32:5 says, churl, right? And it says, the churl will no more be called bountiful. I believe at this point, history can speak for itself. And if you have eyes to see, then you can see who the vile person or persons are. They can no longer hide, especially behind those masks. Even if they parade around in those masks, we see straight through the BS. So let me show you more proof of who these people are by the scriptures, right? Because the scriptures already call them vile while they masquerade as liberals. And it says they are churls while looking like they got it all and they got the reputation for putting you on, right? Now, as I was walking back from the store, I took a little walk after I read my Bible. Before I started working on this episode, I asked, how do I expound on this word? And I heard ravening wolves. So I looked that up. And we finna go to Matthew 7:15 through 17. Because by the time we're done, I want you to have no doubt of who these people are. Matthew 7:15 through 17. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. Right? So the sheep's clothing, these wolves are in sheep's clothing. Now, I looked up ravening wolves, and this is what I got back, right? It says ravening wolves are false prophets, but not only false prophets, but teachers or leaders who appear harmless, pious, and trustworthy on the outside, but are inwardly dangerous, malicious, and destructive, aiming to exploit or destroy the faithful. Inwardly, they are destructive, but outwardly, they look harmless. Definitely those leaders, right? These are the very type of individuals we see falling or are set up to fall today. You can tell by their fruits. Now, can I tell you something about the founders of this nation and the ones that run it today? This is something that most people never give them credit for. However, this is how the scriptures describe these folks, right? The founders and the leaders, especially the ones that have been idolized over time. In the scriptures, the Most High calls these people a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And that's found in Deuteronomy 28, 49 and 50. I think that's 50 right there. Now, I want you to remember that. The next time you see whoever gets linked up to these files that's been circulating around, right? And also the next time the president decides to take another leader by force and claim his goods or even sells them, right? Or even the next tariff spike. Remember that these people are a nation of fierce countenance, and they show no regard to the person of the old or show favor to the young. Y'all stay blessed. You gotta think deeper.